Good evening, YouTube, BookTube. This is Johnny. It's time to make a video. It's been at least 24 hours. Have some Ice Mountain sparkling natural spring water. So here we are. Another day in the flow of existence. It is a Friday. We are in the middle of the month of February. There's 28 days in February. So we are now halfway through the month of February 2019. It is February the 15th here in Southwest Michigan. It is 9:28 at night. It is 69 degrees inside my cell, the Hermit Hut. Yeah, so Friday reads. First of all, in my February 2019 diary, since we're halfway through, I started the second folder, and I ended on page 137 for the year 2019. I keep reminding myself, we're really in the new year. I mean, sometimes I kind of forget that. But yeah, we're in the second month of the year 2019. We're still basically in the beginning of the year 2019. I wonder what this whole year is going to hold for us, America, and for the world. But I'm not here to talk about American history or politics or things like that. I'm here to talk about Friday reads. Okay, first of all, I want to, as you all know, I volunteer at our local library used bookstore, the Book Nook. I say that all the time. But I say that for my new subscribers or those who just click on me and just watch me. I've been doing that for 10 years. I do it on Mondays from 10 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon, and on Fridays from 10 to 1. And sometimes if one of the volunteers calls me up and says, can I take their place because they got to do something, or they're sick, or they're on vacation or something. So today I volunteered at the Book Nook, and when I'm at the Book Nook, I always bring something home. So today what I brought home 2 used books from the Book Nook. This is Neil Postman. He wrote a book a number of years ago that had a lot of buzz. It was called Amusing Ourselves to Death. This is his book, Technopathy, The Surrender of Culture to Technology. And so I picked that up. And I picked up these, it's called Minority Report, Other Classic Stories by Philip K. Dick, who writes science fiction. And I have not read Philip K. Dick, but if I see anything by him, I collect him. And someday I hope to get around to reading him. So these were the things that I got at the Book Nook today. I think I mentioned I got this book at the Book Nook, was it last week? This is The Pilot. This is by James Fenimore Cooper. This is in the Heritage Press New York edition. It has illustrated woodcuts in here. I bought this for $4, and it looked really cool. See, it has these woodcuts. I keep on my desk this book, The Pilot by Fenimore Cooper, and I've shown that his Leatherstocking Tales and the Library of America series. I keep these on my main study desk because the Leatherstocking Tales is one of my favorite series of novels. I also keep this volume of James Fenimore Cooper. I got this from the Book Nook a couple weeks ago when they were going through the library and taking books out of circulation. This is only volume 1, the early years, and I do plan to buy the second volume of this 2-volume biography on James Fillmore Cooper by Wayne Franklin. So I keep these on my main study desk because James Fillmore Cooper is one of my favorite 19th century American writers, along with Ralph Emerson Thoreau. No, it's Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry Thoreau and Nathaniel Hawthorne, Herman Melville, Edgar Allan Poe, people like that. Henry Adams. Who else? I can't remember right now. Anyway, so I got The Pilot by Fillmore Cooper, and I also picked up a bunch of CDs. We get CDs that come into the Book Nook. People donate all kinds of things, magazines, children's books, art books, but they also, we get sometimes boxes of CDs, and I bought a bunch of CDs. I just collect music along with books. I've made that known that I buy music all the time. And I'm just going to show these CDs I got from the Book Nook recently. I've been collecting Joe Jackson lately, if I see anything by Joe Jackson. This is his album, Look Sharp. This was come out in 1979. I think it's one of his first albums. And then this is Joe Jackson's Greatest Hits. And then this is Joe Jackson's Big World by Joe Jackson. I used to have this CD a long time ago by Michelle Schacht. It's like indie folk, Arkansas Traveler. And when we lived in Houston a long time ago, I was really into Alice in Chains, and this is their album Dirt. It's kind of grunge. This is Alice in Chains Unplugged. This is kind of like Americana, indie rock, Smith Westerns, Dye It Blonde. And then I picked the other day, I was at a thrift store, Action House, and I found 2 Jimmy Eat Worlds, like emo kind of indie rock. 2 Jimmy Eat World, self-titled, and this is Jimmy Eat World Clarity. Many years ago, I saw them open up for Sunny Day Real Estate at Calvin College at some festival of the arts and music. They opened up for Sunny Day Real Estate, which I have their CDs too. Then I picked up a bunch of AC/DC, 3 of their CDs, Highway to Hell, AC/DC, Back in Black, AC/DC. This is kind of like rock. This is AC/DC, If You Want Blood. Then I picked up Alison Cooper, Goes to Hell. And then I picked up Frank Zappa, Strictly Commercial. So I collect music, and I couldn't resist these. Somebody came in and bought $125 of CDs I didn't take. Somebody donated boxes of this 80s and 90s kind of music. These are the ones I just took. Another guy bought $125 worth. There was a lot of it that came in, and I just went through it and took stuff that looked interesting. So, yes, also this week I went to thrift stores around here, and I didn't find anything that I didn't have. I found one book that I didn't have, and this was it. The Best American Essays of the Century editor by Joyce Carol Oates. I like these Best American series. They're essays, short stories, sports writing, all kinds of series. But as I look through it, it has essays by James Baldwin, Susan Sontag, Elizabeth Hardwick, Philip H. Gass, Joan Dillon, Annie Dillard, Stephen Jay Gould, John Updike, Joyce Carol Oates, Saul Bellows, people I really like. Now, to me, this is a good volume. Okay, you look at these writers, and you should write them down and say, when I go to a thrift store or used book sale, look for these writers. Donald Hall, famous poet, who wrote his last memoirs when he wrote memoirs about being 90 and he just recently died. Tom Wolfe, Valimar Nagatov, James Agee, E.B. White. All these people I have books by in our library. And that's how I found, what I do is I see these names of these writers who wrote these essays, and then I go look for their novels or short stories or their literary criticism or poetry. So I got that. The other books I already had, but I will take them to the Book Nook. This is Robinson Davies, The Cunning Man. He's a very famous Canadian playwright, essayist, writer, dramatist, professor, intellectual. This is James Thurber's Carnival. I already had this, so I'll take it to the Book Nook. This is Vonnegut's The Player Piano. This goes into my roving library in my old van. As I mentioned, in the back seat I have stacks of books that I like carrying around in my van to keep me company as I travel down the roads of the American wasteland. So I'll put this in my library van collection. And then I found Vanram Shanarar, The Red Earth and Pouring Rain. I have this in paperback, and I thought this was a good hardback, but the more I looked at it, it looked really beat up. So I don't know, I'll probably just put it in my van and carry it around with me as I travel around. This is one of my favorite books on depression. This book really helped me a number of years ago. The Noonday Demon, An Atlas of Depression by Andrew Solomon. This is a really great book. It really helped me deal with my depression and not feeling ashamed of it, that it's okay to be depressed. It's not something that's ungodly or unspiritual to be depressed. It's not something that we ought to feel sinful about. Now, there is a grief for sin, a remorse for sin, a sorrow when we sin. There is godly repentance, but I'm talking about depressed, which I think is an illness or an affliction of our flesh. But this is really a great book, and I like carrying this around with me in my van, so that's why I got another copy. I might have a paperback edition in my van that I don't know about, but I saw this. It's only like 60 cents. So those are the books I got at thrift stores. Those are the CDs I got at the Book Nook. As far as what I've been reading the last couple of days, I got a book in the mail a couple of days ago, and I've been reading it pretty steadily the last couple of days. Today at the Book Nook, yesterday. My wife has been home on she didn't go out to Seattle due to the bad weather. So she's been home for 3 days, and I spent a lot of time with her, talking, interacting, and so I don't really read that much because I read better when I'm by myself, no distractions. But this is the Fin de Segal, Art and Society in the Age of Uncertainty by Shira West. I got this book in the mail. I came across it in reading this book, The Pleasures of the Imagination, English Culture in 18th Century by John Brewer. This was mentioned this book was mentioned in the footnote in this book. And anyway, she wrote this book, and this whole subject of the Fin de Segal, which means in French the end of the century, the end of the 19th century, that whole time period between like 1890 and about 1910 fascinates me. All that took place before the outbreak of the Great War, the First World War, the beginning of modernism, and what was going on in the art world and music and dance and literature, and the end of the Edwardian period, and all these kinds of things kind of fascinate me. All the literary movements and art movements and music and all that. Well, this goes into that, and it's really, I really enjoyed this book, and it's really been a good read for me. So this is my Friday reads. This is also my Friday reads, The Pleasures of the Imagination, English Culture in English Culture in 18th Century by John Brewer. And in the mornings, I've been reading Saint Teresa of Avila, The Interior Castle, reading Vermenica, the Dutch theologian of the 18th century, The Spiritual Life, just been translated out of Latin or Dutch by Charles K. Telfer. And I've been reading The Fire Within, Saint Teresa of Avila, Saint John of the Cross, and the Gospel on Prayer. I've been reading this in the mornings a little bit. I've not really been able to get anything in the mornings because, like, one morning I had to go take the car in for an oil change, and one morning we went to grocery shopping, and one morning I had to get up and I was really tired and I dozed. Like this morning I got up but I didn't feel like reading. I dozed until I had to get ready to go to the Book Nook, and so I'm kind of out of it a little bit. But these are things I try to read in the mornings for my morning devotions. The Interior Castle by Saint Teresa Avila, translated and edited by E. Ellison Pierce out of Spanish. And reading this in the mornings when I can. So that's what I'm reading on Fridays. Well, I'll be reading during the weekend. Listening to music, Frank Zappa, Alice Cooper, AC/DC, Jimmy Eat World, Smith Westerns, Alice in Chains, Michelle Shock, and Joe Jackson. I really don't listen to that much music. Last night was kind of strange. Last night, my wife slept until about 7:30 in the evening, and I watched a movie on Amazon Prime. And then when my wife got up, we watched 2 movies on Amazon Prime. I have never watched 3 movies in one day in years. And I don't watch movies. I don't watch TV except for football during the football seasons. So that was kind of strange. But we watched some old movies from the 60s and 70s. So yeah, reading the Bible. I got my Bible. I just love this Bible. I showed you, I got this about a month ago. I just love this Bible. It reminds me of the Bible I had when I was a boy, going to church on those rare occasions, like on Easter, we would go to church, just rarely when I was a youngster. But I remember this kind of Bible. This Bible was printed in 1952. 1953, this thing came out. It's in perfect condition. This is the Bible that was given to Carol and I and our family when we left Houston, Texas, after I did my internship in the 80s. This is a New King James. This is a King James. This is New King James. This is the one I know pretty much. It's all beat up because I look at it all the time. So now it is February the 15th. The Friday is 9:47 at night. I should download this video. I do thank you for the new subscribers. Thank you for the comments. Tell me what kind of music you're listening to these days, what you're reading, what the weather's like in your part of the world. Something else I wanted to ask you. I'm always amazed when I look at videos of booktubers that people are all just living the same kind of lives that we live here in Michigan and America. People all over the world. are just doing the same thing that I'm doing. Making booktube videos, they're reading books, they're going to school, they're going to the grocery store, they're getting oil change in their cars, they're going to school, they're working, they're raising families, they're going through ups and downs, ins and outs. We're just all one humanity, and why can't we just love one another and live in peace? I don't know. Makes me very sad, all the hatred in the world and all the war and bloodshed and violence. It just brings tears to my eyes. So I hope you have a good weekend. I once again thank you for your comments and for subscribing. I do pray that you have a good weekend. And until next time, bye.